fix to start kicking ass, just like it said at the beginning of the program.
Man of the hour, tower of power, too sweet to sour.
Sending your ass on the jabroni jet to the other side of the territory, brother.
The Alabama Hammer.
Nightmares on the best part of my day.
The goods from the wood.
Hot damn!
Welcome to the Goods from the Woods. My name is Rivers Langley.
I'm Pat Riley.
Joining us on Mic 3 today, our very special guest, back after suffering through the Butt Rock Gauntlet. Somehow, even though we tortured him so, he's agreed to come back and hang out with us at Disgraceland for this episode. Our friend,
Sam Harter.
Sam Harter's back.
Sorry I ruined the flow of the third host introduction.
Oh, no. I wanted to properly introduce you. And, of course, people definitely know you. It's weird. The Butt Rock episodes, they do numbers. It's crazy. Yeah. And you would think it's making fun of Nickelback. It's fish in a barrel, but people love it. So,
Well, it's not just making fun of Nickelback. I mean, there's just all those bands.
Yeah, we made fun of what a puddle of mud. We made fun of
wide array.
Yeah, the
Stained.
all of
the in-house music composition department at ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut. We made fun of that.
Yeah, 50 Shades of Brown. Is what that was.
And it's funny because it's like after everyone, we just kind of sit back and we're like, you know what? We actually missed out on a large number of songs.
Oh, yeah. We're building a bracket here, folks. Don't worry. But let me bring in our very special guest. He is one of my favorite comedians to watch here in Los Angeles, and a guy I got to work with in Phoenix, Arizona, not that long ago. Our friend
Evan Kessler.
Evan Kessler's here. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I feel like I missed out on a good butt rock conversation.
Well, this was 2 weeks ago in podcast time, a lifetime ago in real life.
I spent some time in butt rock hell. I used to work at VH1 on the top 20 video countdown.
When?
Early 2000s.
What? We talk about this all the time.
And I
Amir
also
Khatib was the guy's name that was
Amir Halim.
Halim, yeah.
We're still in touch. Me and Amir. Yeah, he lives out in LA.
I talk about that time period specifically on this show a lot because I was in high school going into like my junior senior year, and I would wake up to VH1 Jumpstart, and it would be
Jumpstart with Zeke.
Yeah, and it would be like weird stuff where it would have like this soft rock kind of like Vanessa Carlton, like
that was.
And then also butt rock.
That was every day of my life for like.
You did that to me.
It was done to me. Like I would get like emails from the music department that was like, "This is the top 20 this week," and you'd be like, "Oh shit," because you'd have to write the intros for. The host reads for that stuff. And you're like,
sure.
You're like, for the 47th straight week on our countdown, John Mayer's,
your body's a wonderland.
Yeah. They might have fallen off on the countdown last week with, what was that? What was his first song? Whatever.
I want to run through the halls of my house.
But this week he's back. Like,
top of my lungs.
Like, the next single would automatically be entered at, like, number 12, and you'd just be like...
How did that happen? How did people know?
That was you writing stuff.
I had to write. I had to come up. I had to like justify why it was in words for the host to read.
Wow!
Oh my God!
Well, there's an honor to meet you.
I
watched that show so much.
And it was a certain variety of butt rock because it was the lighter butt rock.
Butt rock light, yeah.
Because it wasn't like your harder butt rocks, your mud veins and stuff like that. It wasn't like they were going to play Mudvayne Dig in the middle of...
Yeah, no, it's not. Mudvayne is not a morning band.
Yeah, but prior to that, I was an intern on The Rock Show.
With Eddie Trunk?
What?
With Eddie Trunk? Or
no,
that was the
with Kane, I guess, was the host. This guy Kane.
Glenn Jacobs.
The mayor of Knoxville.
But basically what I had to do is like I transcribed a lot of interviews with drunk fans from festivals that featured like Creed and Limp Bizkit.
Oh, this is amazing. Whoa. Wow.
And there'd be feuds between Creed and Limp Bizkit at the time, and you'd have to listen to drunk fans in Long Island go like, Scott Strapp could kick Fred Durst, and you'd be transcribing it, and you'd be like, obviously drunk guy in green hat. Like, because I didn't know the people's names, so I'd have to write descriptions.
Why did they need this transcribed?
Oh, I have no idea.
Because stuff like that never made it on air.
Well, no, because they have their summer segments where we stopped by the Ozfest in
oh yeah, they did.
In New Jersey somewhere.
Yeah. And we talked to fans, and it was just like a bunch of assholes,
Of course.
That's incredible.
I mean, with that B-roll, with that video, you could compile a sequel to Heavy Metal Parking Lot. That would be amazing.
Butt Rock Parking Lot.
If we still had that footage, we could go viral right now.
It exists somewhere in those towers at Viacom. I'm sure it's still sitting there on a hard drive. God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, because I used to watch, it would be Jumpstart, and then if the one on Jumpstart sucked, you could flip it over to AM TV. It was basically the same shit as Jumpstart plus hip hop. Like the AM, the MTV AM show, because it would be that, and then it would also be it would be past the Cavassier or something.
Yeah,
too.
pretty much. VH1 had a note. It wasn't written, but it was we don't like hip hop. It scares the older white people.
Yeah,
but they like this really shitty.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I think they got a little. Well, they eventually got way more into
They would play specific
urban
hip hop songs.
Yeah,
they would play that Nas song where the children were singing on the chorus. I know I can be what I want to be, and it was the Ninth Symphony or what's that? It's that Beethoven song.
Yeah.
Moonlight Sonata.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was the sample. They loved that song.
I feel like they also, and I might be conflating the two because I would admittedly be half asleep, which is the whole concept of this show. But I feel like they also played that, whatever that Eminem song is, where for 2 seconds he goes, and then they blame it on Marilyn, and then they just Marilyn Manson's just there for literally a second.
Yeah.
You're like, you flew him in to be on the screen for 1 second.
Yeah, you're right. They did get into Eminem in about 2001.
Oh, I've
on I Am.
Yep,
was the track.
Oh yeah, that's right. I am whatever you say I am.
But Eminem was really good at weird cameos because in the first music video he had George Mirasan showing up, and it's just George Mirasan's here. Cool.
I think he was palatable to VH1 because he had Dido on that one song.
Oh,
that's right. It was we can play this because people think they're listening to the Dido song.
That was a crossover hit. They started playing that on the alternative rock station in town.
Yeah. I was gonna say I remember when My Name Is came out. Tiger 95.9, always alternative. They would have the Monday Night Cage match where they would play two songs and you'd call in and vote.
Rules.
You'd call in and vote on whichever one you wanted.
I remember this.
And Eminem just ran the damn gauntlet every night, and then they had to retire him like Tom Green.
One of the things that was fun, I find funny on Twitter is that whenever John Fugelsang makes tweets, and there are always these kind of political commentary tweets. Who's
John Fugelsang?
Well, he was an MTV, a VH1 top 20 countdown alumni. He was the presenter for it. So whenever I see him making some,
not even an MTV VJ, a VH1 VJ.
So whenever I see him making these kind of political points, you get this weird sort of cognitive thing going on where it's like, the VH1 top 20 guy?
But he always had this smug delivery.
Yeah. He's got a smug delivery, and he's got, strong opinions on the marginal tax rate or whatever.
He's like the Democratic Party equivalent of Kurt Loder.
Okay.
Because Kurt Loder's a big libertarian.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was the one that introduced Kennedy to libertarianism.
No.
Kurt Loder.
No. Oh, Kurt, you did that to us, and now we have to watch. Is she on MSNBC now?
I don't know.
No,
I thought
she's
on
Fox
News.
I think.
I think
she's on Fox Business.
Yeah.
But she makes appearances.
I get her mixed up with S.E. Cup.
Yeah,
because they're the same.
But
person.
S.E. Cup isn't she on CNN now?
I can't. The only time
this is like the match game for conservative anchors.
The only time I ever get to catch this shit is when I'm at my parents' house.
Yeah.
David Brooks is the Charles Nelson Riley of that match game.
I just want to go on record as saying I don't know who any of these people are.
Okay, good. Well, then you're a better man than I. Jesus.
Cup is a pretty rad last name.
Yeah, that rules.
S.E. Cup.
S.E. Cup.
Yeah.
I thought okay, they're making names up. Now.
I mean, that's
and they
kinda,
said that.
It's kind of what it sounds like. You know, if the lifeguard gets pissed at you at the city pool, like, what's your name? S-E. And you're like looking around.
Like, I didn't say spell it.
Cup.
Yeah.
Cup with 2 P's.
So wait, and you. I didn't even know this. This is totally not even what we came here to talk about, but now I'm fascinated. Because one of the big early controversies from that era, the first time I ever really registered the name Zach Galifianakis is when he had his late night
Late
show,
World, yeah.
Late World with Zach, and he, I think, almost got fired because he made fun of Creed too much.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the
I
things.
remember when that show came out, because I was working on the top 20 countdown, and there was a whole huge, like, company-wide meeting at the like the lodge, which is like the whole MTV network's like at 1515, like it's basically the cafeteria, but they have like events in there.
Oh, okay. When you said the lodge, I was thinking this is out in the woods.
No,
and
no,
like,
no.
if you make fun of Creed, you're gonna end up in a mine shaft.
No.
Right?
Okay, so the day they were introducing this like brand new like lineup of VH1 shows. They're like, we got all these exciting new shows.
Yeah.
Late World with Zach, and everyone was like, who the hell's Zach? Because nobody knew who he was at that time.
Yeah.
And we were all excited because we had a new format for the top 20 countdown.
Uh-huh.
We were like, they're gonna mention us, they're gonna mention us because they made it like the top 30 countdown.
Whoa.
And we got a truck that was like an ice cream truck because we were sponsored by like Baskin Robbins, and we would like go around New York City like giving people ice cream.
Wouldn't it be the top 31 countdown in that case?
Why would? Yeah, it should be.
It was, yeah. Good point. No, but nobody mentioned us. And then, so they mentioned all these new shows, and they mentioned Late World with Zach, and everyone was like, who's Zach? And they had this other dumb show, like Red Eye, that it was just a show where they showed video. Another dumb, anyway. And then they didn't mention us. And then the next day, the guy who was president of VH1, like presiding over that meeting,
Yeah.
he quit.
Oh
Like,
shit.
he was not. We were like, oh, that's a confidence booster.
Oh, my
for the whole
God.
network. I don't know. I like that. I like Late World because I don't know.
Oh, it was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they pulled it way too early, but I
Yeah.
really do think it was because like the networks were like, "Hey, can you tell him to lay off Creed, please?" Like that was really why.
Yeah. I worked at VH1 for like 5 years.
Oh,
'Cause
man.
I worked on the I Love the 70s, 80s, 90s stuff.
Oh, okay.
And
Damn.
There was a
Which is every television show I watched in college.
I was gonna say, man, that was my whole 2002 was just watching that programming
Yeah.
there.
And then what else? The last show I did there was a R. Kelly Trapped in the Closet special.
Oh, dude! Yes!
Yeah.
I remember that!
And it's funny because they interviewed R. Kelly for the show,
Yeah.
and I had to transcribe those interviews, and he's just like completely insane. Like,
Yeah, of course.
but like you
R.
know,
Kelly, the
any-
leader of the sex cult?
but
Insane?
any idea that he's some sort of like genius
Oh yeah.
is completely debunked by watching these like interviews where he's like, first of all, they interviewed all of the people in the videos in character.
Oh, so Omar from The Wire had to be the cop and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had no idea, like, really what the motivation for their character was. They're like,
I am the nosy neighbor.
they're like, when I saw that Bridget was with a midget, and it's like, but they're like, no, say it like you're the guy.
I actually
who,
remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, but just transcribing
'Cause
those
it's very
interviews.
Chris Gainesy. I remember
Yeah,
it being
like-
like extremely Chris Gainesy.
Yeah.
Like I felt like we could only use the clips where like they realized what we were doing. The
Yeah.
clips we could use were very small because half the time they were just like, oh yeah, I'm in character. Like,
right. They're like,
And then R.
remembering.
Kelly was just like explaining his motivation. He's like, I had the word Bridget, and I was like, what rhymes with Bridget? And I was like, midget. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure.
Christ.
Well, I just with that whole trapped in the closet thing, it was interesting how he worked up to it because this was like a long-standing sort of mega project he had in mind because the first like kind of iteration of it was the video for Down Low, the song Down Low, which is like a movie
Yeah.
where he's this guy who's the right-hand man of this guy named Mr. Biggs, who's played by Ronald Isley from the Isley Brothers. And he's like, there's this big, long introduction where he, like, is giving the terms. He's like, I'm going out of town to do some business. You're going to have to watch my lady. You can take her out. Follow any demand that she has.
It's like John Travolta and
not
Marcellus Wallace
to touch her.
Yeah.
And you are not to touch her by any means. And Ronald Isley looks awesome in it.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, he does touch her. He falls in love with her.
Uh-oh.
He gets the shit beat out of him, and he gets thrown in the middle of the desert. And then apparently he beats the crap out of his wife, and then R. Kelly walks through the entire desert. Somehow escapes the desert.
All of it.
And then ends up in the hospital, and he holds her hand, and she dies, right? So it's like this really tragic sort of thing.
Christ.
So the thing was that this video contained, it was like, okay, this you could see where he was going for, kind of like that, because that was the era of
medieval
those, like,
murder ballad.
I mean, but it was like the era of those kind of like the tail end of the era of like the mega music video.
Yeah,
like
every music video cost $1 million.
$1 million. Yeah, and had a plot line and was 10 minutes long. Like the whole like Guns N' Roses thing.
Yeah.
Like, it was like the R&B equivalent of November Rain. And
God.
But the thing that was interesting was that Ronald Isley as Mr. Biggs records an album as Mr. Biggs, and he has music videos as Mr. Biggs where R. Kelly shows up and he's like, "Do I recognize you?" What? And then like R. Kelly is singing things where he's like, "You've never seen me before." He's like, "You look familiar." And in all the videos, R. Kelly is having sex with Mr. Biggs' girlfriend.
Wow.
They were gonna make that. From what I understand, they were gonna make that into a. They wanted to make that into like a soap opera, a weekly soap opera.
Really?
Oh my god.
Like I think they were in negotiations with R. Kelly at the time to just keep going.
Was it going to have the beat like the whole time?
I think
like
so.
all 30 minutes? Just got the
Man,
song?
we missed out.
Oh my god.
I mean, the fact that that never happened, that would have been like a huge. I mean, it's already pretty crazy that Trapped in the Closet
exists and
it
was
exists.
allowed to.
But if they
to
had
happen.
made like 20 episodes of it,
Oh
The
yeah,
levels
yeah.
of insanity. It would get to like.
I mean, I'm
like-
glad they didn't because he's a terrible person.
Right,
And they didn't
sure.
give him that money. But at the same time, you're like, it would have been interesting to see what other rhymes he came up with. Like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
any word.
What else rhymes with Bridget?
He started a company
The
that sold widgets.
Yeah, widgets,
Fidget.
Fidget, 1960s surf comedy Gidget.
Yeah, I mean, it would reach like last season of Family Matters levels of insanity with the plot. Because it was just like, he's in space and there's another R. Kelly. And, it's.
Oh my god.
Were you a transcriber for all of these things?
No, for the last I Love the 70s that I worked on, I was a segment producer.
Ooh.
I'd been an associate producer for the I Love the 90s.
Okay.
So did you get to meet a lot of cool people who were talking about this stuff, or were you never?
I didn't meet. I was in a couple of interviews, but I didn't like. It was weird because people would just like run into rooms when people were there and just like want to take pictures with them, and I kind of hate being that type of person,
Yeah, yeah.
especially at that time. But there was one like.
Yeah, that seems unprofessional.
Yeah.
To run in and try and take a photo with Eric Estrada.
Yeah. It was weird. Like you'd be like.
You leave Monica Lewinsky alone.
Yeah, like you'd be in the elevator with like Ron Jeremy, and you'd be like, "This is weird." You know?
Oh, Ron Jeremy driving a Saturn on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
One
Ron
time-
Jeremy's just here to have his hot takes on the Starland vocal band, okay? And that's
I think the height of it was just like being in the elevator with like Peter Graves.
Oh yeah,
You're just being
of course.
like, "Oh, that's cool." I was just like, I just nodded at Peter Graves in the
elevator.
In the elevator, like that's cool.
Hell yeah.
because it's that weird sort of in between space with VH1, because now VH1 is all basically reality show content,
Yeah, yeah. Well, you were kind of at the transition point there when it turned into celebriality.
Yeah, my favorite thing about that whole series, the I Love 70s, 80s, 90s, was like we had a list of people we wanted to interview.
Yeah.
There's just a whole list for talent that we came up with from like based on the movies and TV that we were talking about. And we had Gary Cole from Office Space.
Oh, sure, yeah. I remember that actually on the 90s one, right?
And originally the only reason he was on the show was because the document got cut off and it was originally said Gary Coleman, and so they reached out to Gary Cole.
What? Oh, that's awesome.
Damn,
I mean-
Gary Coleman needed that money. Too.
I know. It would have saved his life.
Yeah. And then he ended up being great on the show. So you're just like, great.
Yeah,
that's a good accident.
He was a very charismatic guy.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was definitely purposely got.
Right.
Well, I think after the first interview, they were like, okay, more Gary Cole. You know,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Because there was that in-between period where it was like, I love the 70s, I love the 80s, I love the 90s, all the countdown shows that they had of like the 100 greatest whatever.
Yep.
And they always played that 100 greatest artists of hard rock one for some reason.
Oh, God,
all the time with Carmen Electra, who like is the
Looking
worst.
fine.
I mean, it's just like, I always found it funny that was like the one for hard rock, because it's like, out of all the people that I guess she was married to, I don't know if she was married to Dave Navarro yet, but it was
she
like.
slept with a lot of guys and bands. Come on,
Because
man.
like, yeah, they were just like, hard rock. Well, just put you in a skimpy leather dress and high leather boots. Yeah, it's hard rock, you know.
She was dressed as so skimpy.
But it was, they always would play it, and she was horrible at reading the teleprompter. And I remember her making some comment about Husker Du, which crap. No, it was Bad Brains, because they introduced Bad Brains. And she was just like, this next band came out of Washington, D.C. It was just like, I'm watching Carmen Electra talk about Bad Brains.
Yeah.
This rules. And then the other thing I remembered was all the bands that were like lame as hell, but they would have like Pantera talking about how great Foreigner was, which was always hilarious. Like Dimebag Darrell being like, yeah, Lou Gramm. You had a good set of pipes on him. Foreigner. You know, head games. You've heard it before.
Can I ask who was the person, and you may not want to say, who you were least looking forward to working with at these shows?
I think we liked.
Most of them were good.
Yeah, I don't think there were any horror stories with like people who were difficult, and a lot of the interviews, because I was in New York at the time, and a lot of the interviews were conducted in L.A. So.
Oh, okay.
And it was like half and half. Like we had a little studio, and people would come in. We'd have like some of the long ones. And, we'd sit down with Michael Ian Black for like 2 days and just go through every single topic.
Right, yeah.
And
that's how
it's pre-Twitter. He had a lot of ideas to get out.
I was gonna say, that's how most people probably became aware of that guy.
Yeah,
because I didn't watch the fucking. I'd be lying if I said I was a state head going into that.
Oh,
show.
you didn't watch Viva Variety?
I never saw any of that.
I did watch that. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't remember any of it.
I remember Michael Ian Black coming out with a racist accent and a fake little mustache.
Oh,
and
good.
Eating Alpo out of a can.
Oh, that sounds.
They were all doing racist accents. It wasn't just him.
It's still not as bad as writing a book with Meghan McCain, but anyway.
Yeah.
That project cracks me up, where I'm just imagining Michael Ian Black getting drug into anthropologies all over the country.
Yeah.
The one in Baltimore slightly different than the one in Philly. So we're here in mid-November. And so, guys, we are like 6 months away from summer.
I can feel it. You
feel it coming, right?
Air's starting to warm up. It's 80 degrees outside.
Yeah, or at least in LA. Evan and I were at a Halloween party a couple weeks ago. And we started talking about the subject of camp.
It's funny. I went to summer camp for 10 summers. I went a sleepaway camp for 10 summers, and looking back on it, like there's fond memories. Then I'm like, that was part of me is like thinks it was kind of stupid, and then part of me is just like, oh, those were simpler times.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of that is just like, oh, I hadn't done anything yet.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Whatever you do as a kid rules, but yeah. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in the suburbs of New York City, like 45 miles northwest of New York City. But I went to summer camp in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. Just kind of.
The Beach Boys loved the Poconos.
Basically, where it's kind of where Wet Hot American Summer is.
Okay.
Because every time I watch that movie, I'm like, that looks like my camp.
Yeah. Speaking of Michael Ian Black.
And I think it was like filmed at one of the camps that we would occasionally play.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
So it's a very familiar setting.
Yeah.
I saw that movie when it first came out in theaters, and I was just like, that's about right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, 10 summers, and
From what ages to what ages?
from, I believe, 8 to 17.
Okay. Wow.
Did you loop over to be like a camp counselor?
Yeah, I did.
Because I always found the sleepaway camp thing, the summer camp thing, to be fascinating. Because I didn't know that was a thing until I went to college, and like a large portion of people that I went to college with went to camp every summer. And it was something that I just like that and Dave Matthews Bands were two things that I had no reference to whatsoever.
Yeah.
And when I went to college, I was like, am I from Mars? Like, I have no idea like what is happening here. Because it was just like this continual set of references where people would go to college and they'd like realize that they went to the same summer camp when they were 9.
Right.
And they didn't see each other after that point. It was like this really, similarly, they went to the same Dave Matthews Band concert and smoked shake together at the Meadowlands, and but it's like something that I didn't realize. I always find really fascinating.
Dude, you haven't had stems and seeds until you've had stems and seeds in song 42.
I also had no experience with sleepaway camp. My parents, I think, couldn't afford to send me and my brother to something like that, and then they would tell us that the parents who sent their kids to camp didn't love them.
I think it's just that they're. I think
What a great cover!
I think
genius.
parents just want to have sex for 2 months straight,
Yeah, of
like any
course.
room in the house. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's the general idea, and they're willing. Some are willing to pay any amount of money just to get that privacy.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have one brother.
Okay. How's that? So you said you got one brother, because that's what I was wondering. Because I'm an only child, and I went to Boy Scout camp, but that was just like a week basically.
Yeah, this was 8 weeks.
The whole
8 weeks,
the whole goddamn
summer.
Yeah.
And you know what? It made going away
That's
to
a lot
college
of
like pretty
fucking.
easy. Like,
Yeah, of course.
Like I was never homesick when I was at camp.
And it was pretty much the same kids every year, kind of a thing.
Yeah, but then some people would fall
come and
off.
go. Yeah.
So-
Michael would leave and Pinsky would come in.
Yeah.
That episode was amazing.
Fucking
When Pinsky shows up and assuages Ugg with his salami.
What?
No, so like
what is happening?
I don't remember that.
So on Salute Your Shorts, they replaced Michael, who had, I think it was like chicken pox or something, at age 13, which is really weird. And Pinsky comes in, who later was on Boy Meets World and is in the band Rilo Kiley.
What? Pinsky's in Rilo Kiley? I knew they were all like child actors. I didn't know who.
Yeah, he's a guitarist for Rilo Kiley.
Donkey Lips is in Modest Mouse.
and Sponge is in Mudvayne. But what happened was that he was
that
like,
Wonder Years kid got his ribs taken out so he could suck.
I think that was one of the rival camps.
Yeah.
I think Josh Saviano was like a counselor.
What?
really?
Or so, like I remember people saying that they met him at like
No
the
shit.
bar. Because
At the bar, and he's just drinking. He's like, I'm not Marilyn Manson.
Listen, there's that was the rumor, not the Marilyn Manson thing that he was, but like there was a camp that we would sometimes play in sports, and it was called French Woods, and it was like an
French Woods.
Yeah, it was an
God.
arts. It was an arts camp.
Of course, it was an arts camp.
But when I was like 15 or 16, they apparently, and this is a weird thing to have as a specialty, they were also really good at volleyball.
Okay.
That seems very weird.
Yeah.
In like,
Well, you've never been to France.
I was gonna say.
exactly.
I would assume croquet or polo.
Because I remember one year I signed up for like the volleyball tournament team, and we went to their camp, and they were all wearing shirts that said like "Shut up and serve." French Woods.
Woods.
And they all had like the Oakley glasses, like they were.
The
They were all
wraparounds.
like
Yeah.
6'7".
And we were like,
like two.
like what is going on?
That's amazing.
Because I remember when we were like 9 or 10, we beat them 23-0 in baseball, and like we like run ruled them or something. I don't know.
And then
'Cause
they
he-
got their revenge on
They
the
got their
sand.
revenge. They were always like those. We had like camps that were like the bad guys, you know, like they were like There's a camp that actually there's another.
Wait, was this a movie or
That's
real
what it's
life?
like. I'm telling you.
Woods.
I'm telling you, we were like the meatballs camp. We were like the ragtag.
Right.
Camp
You were the
first.
slobs. They were the snobs.
We had like this shitty campus that was like on a hill, so you couldn't, like everything was like
Everything was slanted.
everything was slanted, and like the baseball field went into the soccer field, and so like if you're playing baseball and like there's everything, and the other camp was like well manicured and had all these separate facilities.
The rich
and,
camp.
Yeah.
And some of them had like instead of wearing a camp shirt that just had like the name of the camp, they had like their name and number. They had like jerseys, and we were like, those guys are assholes. And then we became those assholes probably like 6 years into me being a camp because they moved the camp across the lake because they bought another camp.
Oh, okay.
And then we had nice facilities, and we were the assholes.
So, and then wait, did a shittier camp move into your old?
Yeah,
camp?
but we
Like,
never. Yeah, it was.
So
I
a
think they
shittier camp hermit crabbed your old shit.
Yeah.
They just go back there to
And they were
beat 'em at
like-
sports.
And I think it was like a computer camp. I think it became like a computer nerd camp.
That's
So-
They're probably all rich right now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
yeah, they're all running the damn world.
I'm sure.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. Yeah, of course, French Woods. I just imagine they have like tea sipping class. It's like
Yeah.
pinkies out, ladies.
But right before volleyball period.
right. And then they just fucking destroy because they're all 7 foot tall Frankish barbarians.
And then also, I think when I was like 10 or 11, Frenchwoods gave me my introduction to improv because.
Oh, yeah, I wanna know about this.
Because they came to our camp to put on an improv show.
Mime, one would
Oh
assume.
man.
It was like our whole camp was watching, and they were like, "We want a suggestion." Like they had a whole improv show, and it was called A Streetcar Named Larry. And
That's so improv.
and it's funny because in my head that is like a cultural reference, but it's not a cultural reference to anyone else because this is like a thing that because I remember the song
Yeah.
that they sang,
Uh,
and I remember, but like nobody me.
what song was it?
It
what
was
did
like
they
a made
sing?
up. It was a streetcar named Larry coming down the avenue. A streetcar named Larry. Beep beep, we're coming through.
No, this is some real Who's Line shit.
Yeah.
This is.
But
wow.
but I'll never forget that for some reason. And there are probably people who were in that troupe that do not remember it. But for
yeah.
some reason, I was just like, "What the crap is this?" It was
Yeah.
just like my first introduction to bad improv.
Right, right, yeah. Well, that was something that we kind of talked about when we were talking at that Halloween party. Was like, there's always a sketch element. Like they even did this like when we were in Boy Scouts. Like they'd have this sort of big final night
Skits.
fire where they would have big bonfire and at the amphitheater next to the lake. And then if you wanted to put on a skit, you could just do one. And so ours, and this will tell you exactly what
Imagining it at like when you said amphitheater, I'm just imagining a bunch of Boy Scouts doing a skit at like Red Rocks or
I
something.
mean, yeah, well, it was Camp Lumpkin. It wasn't that sexy, but
We always had talent shows. That was like a big.
Yeah.
There was like 4 times a year there was a talent show.
yeah.
And then there were, there's a guy who's like a writer he's like a major baseball writer now.
Oh, okay,
Who
yeah.
went to my camp, and every talent show he would sing like "Walkin' in Memphis."
Whoa, that's okay.
And
Was
then,
it Peter Gammons?
Yes, it was Peter Gammons. And there were always like girls that did like just dance routines to like Stacey Q's "Two of Hearts" or whatever.
Right.
Whatever hell song was popular then, and it was all like the same moves of like whenever there was the word heart, they would like double pump on their heart.
do the-
It's like you could have done like it was like a paint by numbers dance routine.
Right.
Or just like, oh, they said heart, they said love, they said and you knew what move was coming.
Yeah, the one I remember because they'd have the final night fire amphitheater and they'd open it up. And it's like, hey, if you've got a skits, we'd come up with something. And this will tell you exactly what year this was. This would have been the summer of 1997 because it was the year Surge came out. And so somebody hipped us to the jive on this. Like, if you want good food for lunch, because everybody else got bologna sandwiches, if you wanted good ass food for lunch, because it was a Boy Scout camp, you could you took your quote unquote classes would at the end of the camp get you the merit badge for whatever it was. So the secret was take the cooking merit badge, because then lunch was badass. Like you would actually cook real ass food and not just the bologna sandwich. So we took the cooking merit badge, and in order to do it, they took us to the grocery store in town, like away from the camp. Like we got in a van, and we bought so many 2 liters of Surge because all of our parents had just plied us with money, because they were like, I don't, looking back on it, it's like, why did you think that I needed this, $100 for the week at camp? But for whatever reason, so we just bought shit tons of Surge, giant 2-liter bottles of it, and took it back. And so unsurprisingly, our sketch that we wrote was just involved basically Surge driven madness, where like you would just drink Surge. And I remember I think it was my buddy Ryan, shout out to him down there in Auburn, I think the final thing of the sketch was he legitimately chugged Surge, took his shirt off, and then ran headfirst into a tree. And that was our skit. Aren't you proud of us, Mom?
Sounds like the Jackass guys ripped you off.
I mean, kind of.
Yeah, that's some high-level UCB sketch.
Yeah. It was performance art for sure.
We had a thing called Sing, where basically like a couple of weeks into the summer, we had upper camp sing and lower camp. So the younger groups would compete against the young groups, and the older groups would compete against the older groups.
Yeah, sure.
And so the counselors would like rewrite popular songs to be like,
oh god,
diss other, to diss other people in camp or other groups and other counselors and other just like or
they just redo No Vaseline to be about upper sing.
Well, like what did we do? Like my last year as a camper, we did. By the way, my last year, our bunk, the oldest bunk in our camp, was named after Popeye's chicken.
Okay.
Because they had a Popeye's chicken sign, and that's just a thing that happened.
Gotcha.
Like all the other bunks on the boys' side were named after
Pastamania.
No, they were named after Native American tribes, and then
there
Popeye's chicken.
Popeye's chicken and biscuits.
Yeah, and so, but because it was like 1994, 95, we did a thing called Pulp Popeyes, and all of our stuff, all the songs we used were like Tarantino soundtrack.
Oh,
songs.
okay, gotcha.
And basically in our sketch, we killed the owner of the camp.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we also implied that the head of the boys' camp and the girls' camp were having an affair, which they were.
Okay.
And we literally just like, and somehow we didn't win, but everybody loved what we like. I wrote it with like one other.
They couldn't let you win if you.
I know, but we were like.
Although I would love a fried chicken themed parody of Miserloo. That would be amazing.
Yeah. But we basically were just like
cluck 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 cluck.
But like we were basically like pretty bold in saying like, hey, let's kill this. Let's kill the owner of the camp.
Well, yeah.
And let's say these two are fucking, and they are. Then let's say these two are having an affair.
And you said they were?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Because we did like the boys' side head and the girls' side head were like the Bruce Willis and his.
Oh, the boring part of Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, which is like.
Whose motorcycle is this?
It's a chopper, baby.
Whose chopper is this?
Zed's.
Who's Zed?
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
So we got pretty bold at times. There's a couple of years before we were like. The second oldest group was called the Cavaliers, and we did a thing called like the Christmas Cavaliers, and we just had this fat kid play Santa, and we just kept probably body shaming him, but he grew up to be, and he was on our side, but I think he grew up to be like pretty strong,
muscular,
pretty muscular.
Yeah.
So sometimes bullying and making fun of people worked.
Oh, I think I've probably told this on the show before, but at Camp Lumpkin, kid jumped on my back And like we were like kind of like having a fight. The kid like jumped on my back, and I was able to successfully like kind of turn him sideways and do a real Samoan drop, like fall backwards. So like he was underneath me and shit, and like knocked the wind out of him, and I won. And that dude started doing tons of steroids, and by the time we got to like college, he was doing like, you know, weightlifting competitions and was like shaped like an upside down triangle. And I was always just thinking like, I hope that motherfucker doesn't remember that I Samoan dropped him at Camp Lumpkin.
Yeah.
You're probably thinking that every day he was shooting up steroids.
That's what I was, just putting a needle in his ass, just like
lifting the fucking bar. Just, fucking kill that
I'm
guy.
gonna kill that guy. No idea what happened to that guy though. I don't know. He's out there. He's
probably killed a few people.
He's just loose. Hey, well, if there's any argument, he threw the fire bucket at me, so he fucking started it.
There's a few people I could think of that I'm just like, oh, they probably killed a few people since.
Oh yeah.
Like I just remember there being like a fairly like mentally unstable person like in my bunk, and now I found out that he's like a cop in New York. I'm like,
oh, good.
That's great.
Oh,
He's probably
God damn it.
He's probably real itchy with the trigger.
Yeah. Was there a lake? Was there a lake situation?
There was a lake.
Did they teach you how to turn your blue jeans into a flotation device?
No, they did not. That is a foreign. You know, there are people.
See, we learned practical shit at Boy Scout camp.
No, we didn't do that. We just had the buddy system.
Oh, okay.
And swimming and you know, had a good time at the lake.
Did you have a catamaran situation or
no
sailboats, rowboats?
There was a motorboat. For water skiing.
Hell yeah.
And then there was, you know, you had boating. You could take out like kayaks, and that was the most chill part of camp, when you're just like, oh, we have boating, and people would hate going boating, but I'm like, yeah, I'll just sit in a kayak and chill.
Yeah.
Not do anything for like 40 minutes. That's cool.
yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah. I told you the other day we had a thing called Color War, and you're like, Color War?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That sounds racist.
Color War sounds fucked up.
Yeah.
We had something, because I went to a small liberal arts college for 1 year, and they had purple side versus gold. This is University of Montevallo. The gold side was like the business school and like the athletes, and then the purple side was like the, you know, like the theater idiots.
Yeah.
And so they would make the gold side put on a play and then play basketball, and then they would make the purple side put on a play and play basketball. And obviously the idea was like, oh, the gold side will be really good at basketball, but they'll lose at theater. But I'm like, no, they're all incredibly good looking and popular.
Yeah.
What do you mean? So the gold side would just fucking smoke purple every year.
Yeah, we just, it was like with like a week left of camp, they would just like have some elaborate ruse to like say, oh, this is the beginning of this crazy time of year. So like you were wearing that big foam hat the other night.
Yeah.
And basically,
which, by the way, I was dressed as did Turd Ferguson, Norm Macdonald as Burt Reynolds. Put the hat in my trunk and forgot about it, and then I opened up my trunk and just started laughing because I was like, oh yeah, I forgot.
I thought it would have melted or something.
No, it's foam. It's it's like, you know, bedding foam. Anyway, sorry.
So our color war would start when the owner of the camp would like, when everyone had to see him take his hat off and like throw it up in the air, and that was like the official start. So they used to do this thing that was like fake breaks, where they would try to like trick people into thinking it was color war. Sometimes they'd have some elaborate. I remember once there was like members of the Knicks or something, were like old members of the Knicks. I don't know, or like members of the, and they were like, I don't know, something weird. My first year, they made it like the military was arresting like a French counselor. It was very weird.
What?
And it was very strange. And
Not
we were
the
just,
French Woods counselor.
No,
real French.
We had because they had counselors from like all over the world, because they do this Camp America program where people from all over the world can just, you know, they work at a camp for the summer, and then afterwards they can travel around.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So this one French counselor got like fake arrested, but I don't think he knew what was going on. Maybe he knew.
That would be really fucked up if you didn't know.
Yeah, I don't put it past our camp.
We're taking your passport.
Because that's not the most fucked up thing that they did. Like, because we were it was like 19. I guess what year was Desert Storm?
91.
99. Whatever the invasion of, whenever Iraq invaded Kuwait.
Yeah, 91.
There was this rumor that as part of the the agreement for all the foreign counselors, they also had to like sign on to be part of like the military or something. It's something that didn't make any sense.
Whoa.
But when you're like 10, you're like, what?
Yeah.
You're like, what do you mean? So like we were all keeping track of like the invasion of Kuwait, and we were like, oh no, our counselor's gonna have to go to war. and we're sitting there and we're just like, oh no. Like we love, everyone had like a foreign counselor in their bunk. Right? Like I had a counselor from Ireland. There were like all these Australian counselors, and the whole thing was like, oh, these people made like an agreement. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's wow.
It doesn't make any sense. But we're like, when you're like 11 and you don't know anything, we're like, I was somewhere between 11 and 12, probably.
Yeah.
And so on one evening, we thought that like all of our counselors were like, we'll know by Wednesday they might all go to war, and the night before there was a talent show, and all of the foreign counselors got up and sang Richard Marx's "Right Here Waiting."
What?
And they all had like candles, and everyone just like cried their brains out.
And your parents paid for this stuff.
Hey,
they got to fuck in the kitchen though.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I have that story now, so it was probably well worth it.
That's
it's just
crazy. So wait, they were singing Richard Marx because they wanted you to think they were going to war, or like?
Yeah, I guess so.
They were keeping kayfabe that they were being drafted into the army.
I don't understand the whole purpose of it.
This is a bunch of 10-year-olds just crying their eyes out to the flamenco guitar bridge of Right Here Waiting.
Yeah.
Dear
That
Lord.
rules. That's amazing.
But then they didn't go
off to war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, how much longer did camp go on? Like, were you just like?
We were like, oh, they didn't go. There was like, oh, we don't have to go to war. Okay, that was resolved.
That's great. So they were just like, but to what end? Like,
I have no idea.
Why
I don't
would they bother
understand
working you? Like,
unless they were trying to like use it as an elaborate break to color war. But that's like a camp competition where it's an athletic competition.
Yeah, okay.
It's a
like
spirit competition. It's a
okay.
They do another sing thing at the end of it where you have 4 days to learn.
Right Here Waiting for You by Richard
songs.
Marx.
And no, it's funny because they would, you had 4 days to learn songs, and then at the end, that's like the end of camp. Like,
yeah, okay.
You both teams square off against each other with songs and skits and crying.
Crying.
It's generally a crying competition. Who can make the other team cry the most?
What did you guys do to try to make the other team cry?
The third song in every sing was like an alma mater, which was like is meant to be like the saddest possible song about camp.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
The most sentimental. There was a song that I remember. This was like 1989, and there was a song that we all went to.
A song called "Pour Some Sugar on Me."
We all went to learn the song. Yeah. We all went to learn the song. We had a big meeting, and the people who wrote the new lyrics to the song would sing the song for you, and you'd get to you'd have to learn the song for over the next 3 days.
Yeah.
And the song that they did was to I forgot. It was like some Christian artist. And the song is
it Striper?
No, it's like it's like a ballad. It's Friends Are Friends Forever or something like that. I feel like you'd probably recognize it if you heard it.
Is it Michael W. Smith? Friends Are Friends Forever?
Yes.
Let's see.
I could sing along to it too. I could sing the
Please do.
I could sing the camp lyrics.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say the camp name though.
Okay, no, don't worry, it's fine.
Wait.
drums.
It sounds very much of that time.
Now that summer's almost over, I think that's it.
Look at the pictures.
Memories will remain of you. Yeah, that's right.
Oh boy.
Can't believe we'll soon be leaving. Means a chapter in our lives is through.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And we will remain such close friends. No matter where we roam.
Oh boy. Grab your lighters, it's a torch.
Cause our hearts, big and small ways, We'll keep the love that keeps us warm. Here we go.
Oh.
And friends are friends forever, though the miles will keep us far. And we'll turn our hearts to camp's name when we have to be apart. Though it's hard to say goodbye as the tears fall from our eyes. No, a lifetime's not too long to live as friends. You don't have to get the whole.
Oh my God.
That's amazing.
Kessler,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Rivers is crying right now.
That was so.
Yeah.
I was choking on my.
Guys, a
fucking
lifetime is not too long to live as friends, okay?
God, that's so funny.
Sometimes you don't have to change a song that much to.
I was gonna say y'all barely changed it. I love
Yeah,
it.
there's more, but
We got it.
yeah, you got it.
Boy.
That sounds like every ballad we had to listen to in music class in elementary school.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. There was a lot of most of those songs that were in all the camp years where people have written alma maters. Probably the main theme in all of the things is bonds lingering on.
Yeah.
is the main.
Did they?
So. But I think that was. You'd be hard pressed to find a song where the lyrics were changed that did not involve bonds lingering on.
Sure.
It was almost like you had to put that in there.
Yeah. Well, plus it's an easy rhyme.
Yeah, bonds are gonna linger on, guys. Yeah.
Did anybody do "Linger" by the Cranberries?
I don't. Probably. We did "Don't Fall in Love with a Dreamer" with Kenny Rogers.
Ooh,
That's
nice.
a good one.
Nice.
We used the Fire by Garth Brooks.
Ooh, yeah. There we go.
There's a lot of good ones in there. Any 80s ballad you could think of.
Sure.
Someone used it.
Oh, that's amazing. So you guys would like perform these, I guess, to try to bust each other up and stuff like that. Were there funny cover songs, or is it just?
Yeah, well, a lot of them were just the first two songs of every sing. There was an opening, which is
the showstopper,
which is hey, we're here. And the march was we're gonna kick your ass and we're gonna sling some insults, and that's what the opening was too.
So usually a "We Will Rock You."
Yeah,
or
I was gonna
something.
say,
something
we're
like
not
that.
gonna take it.
Yeah, something
Yeah, what
Jock
was it?
Jamsy.
Or sometimes it was something weird. I remember someone used "Mama" by Genesis. There's a lot of weird. Some people went a little avant-garde with it.
Wow.
Man, I want to say I had a deep-seated jealousy towards Sleepaway. Now that's almost non-existent after hearing all this stuff.
Fuck all y'all.
Closest thing I did for summer camp is one year I did Boys State, American Legion Boys State.
Oh, sure.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Hey,
Is that
what is that?
That's the
It
government
basically,
one,
yeah,
right?
it's the one where the American Legion runs it every year, and they basically get a collection of young men going into their senior years of high school and young women going into their senior years of high school for Girls State, and we basically run a mock government of the state that you're from, and it's about as exciting as it sounds. Yeah, and then it's funny because people run for office, and there's this amazing sort of divergence between the kids that are talking about real ass policy that would be carried out in Boys State,
right?
And then the other half would be yo, if you elect me for Secretary of State, I'm going to merge Boys State and Girls State, and we are going to have sex!
And then that guy would win, of course.
Yeah, of course he would.
Yeah, although there would always be the ones that were just that took it way seriously, that they're I'm going to springboard this Boys State connection into being an assemblyman for, the state of Florida.
Right.
Yeah, and I met Jeb Bush during it.
Oh boy! Wow.
It was very weird. But yeah, we would just vote on a bunch of like fake bills, and like half of the bills were like legalizing weed. And the other ones were just like mandatory gun ownership. The real divide. And
because there was only boys. There's no girls in this at all.
Yeah,
So
because they're separated.
The issues are just
and
will we have sex? Can we have guns?
Yeah, and we would just be in like the dorms of like, it was at FSU, and we would go over to the Florida State Capitol, which we've established in previous episodes looks like a dick and balls.
Yep, we'll put it on our Twitter because it's so funny.
It is so fitting for that state.
It's a long shaft with two domes on it.
Looks like
side.
male genitals.
Yep.
And we would go, and it would just be being shuttled between the two places, and the hall advisor guys were like just like highway patrolmen and cops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And some of them were like really just complete hard asses. But we had this one guy
Why?
But
these are literally the nerds.
Yeah,
who go to this.
They would just like yell at kids for laughing because whenever they would at one point they projected the state
Don't say it looks like a dick and balls, kid.
No, they projected the state capitol because we
I gotta wear this on my fucking badge.
Yeah, we'd have to take like state government classes during it in this like giant amphitheater, and they projected the capitol, and every time they do it, everybody would be like, yeah. And these like counselors who are these like 50-year-old highway patrolmen would be like, "You stop that right
Show
now!"
some respect.
But we had this dude that
rules so hard.
And we would actually sit in the little like the desks that the Senate and the representatives.
I mean, there it is. We'll put this on our Twitter. It is just straight up.
Two domes and a big old tower.
Two domes and a tower. Yeah.
And it would be So. And we had Charlie.
Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's too perfect.
Yep. And our guy Charlie was the one guy who was awesome. He was like this one guy who he wore acid wash jeans that were pulled way up too high.
Yeah.
But he was so cool because he could pull them off, and he was just like, and he was awesome. He was the only one that was completely laid back
and knew how to throw knives, I assume.
No, I mean, he just like was one of those cops that was just like, kids, I could arrest you for this pot, but I'm just gonna confiscate it, and we're not gonna speak of this. One of those
other
guys.
cops will shoot you with a taser. I got ninja stars, bro.
But Charlie ruled, and there was a guy on our hall, and it was weird because it was there were a lot of the kids on it were like 17-year-olds that identified as being very politically conservative, which is like a very strange sort of thing to see a 17-year-old that's just like, I like Pat Buchanan, Their
parents have just trained them to be.
And the thing that I remembered was there was this one guy, I forget his name. I think his name was Greg, and he was from the Panhandle of Florida, and he would just like walk. He would just drink nothing but Mountain Dew, and he would walk around, and he had this weird like mask that he would wear, like this Halloween mask that would be like a disfigured looking like zombie face.
Yeah.
And he would just walk around the halls and just go, "Hi, Peckerhead. Hi, Peckerhead," and just call everybody Peckerhead the entire time.
And now he's dead.
He was the sheriff of our mini county. I think we were Navy County.
Yeah. And he went on to eat the guy's face, if you saw that.
He went on, his name was actually Ron DeSantis, and he
God.
I don't know. And then if you shone at Boys State, you got nominated to go to Boys Nation.
Oh, that's horrifying.
which is the ultimate Boys State, where you get to go to the Capitol and play mock government.
Right. Senate Resolution number 239, all water fountains will be Mountain Dew.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was just like some kids took it real seriously, and they were like, "This, I have a speech written out. I am going to," and they'd get real political, and they would just be like canvassing for votes throughout the dorm building.
What does that look like now?
Boys State,
right now in 2018.
I have no idea.
Kids who want to be involved in politics.
Do you think they? I feel like they'd probably change the name of it.
Well, no, but what I'm
State?
like.
Well, there's a separate girls' state.
Right. Well, there's girls' state.
Maybe
there's
they've
boys'
combined
states.
them.
Well,
Yeah, but just the sound of it.
It sounds weird, but no. Why I'm asking is like, how many like mini Trumps are there's like a bunch of like fucking 16-year-olds just doing that like shtick.
But the thing was that they squelched. Apparently, somebody had told, because Charlie
like at this point it's probably hacky.
Well,
like,
no, Charlie told us about the fact that like out of all the bills that were, because in order to go, you had to submit a bill and you had to write it in like legislative format, essentially. 20% of the bills were to legalize weed.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And that or lower the drinking age. That was all the bills on one segment. And then the other side was like this crazy, like super insane, like super crazy laws. That were just like mandatory gun ownership.
Like the Cato Institute has infiltrated Boys State and shit like that.
What if now it's just all stuff about civic responsibility?
The Koch brothers are paying out like very small amounts of money to get legislation into Boys State.
And I can't even remember the bills for Boys State. I think it was like I don't know what it was. It was all kind of a blur because they weren't like anything remarkable. I remember that my initial bill of replacing the Florida State flag and changing it to the Calvin peeing on decal. My parents would not let me take that to Boys State.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Well, that should be Florida's flag.
Yeah. Really. That or just Dale Earnhardt's 3.
Your parents deserve to get peed on by Calvin.
Yeah, Boys State was really, and no, it was like one of those things where like when I went to college, everybody was talking about because a lot of people went to summer camp and it was something I missed out on. But like one of my best friends from college, we were like sitting around, and then like for some reason Boys State came up, and we were just like, you went to Boys, and then we like bonded over Boys State, and how insane it was because he went to Kansas Boys State, which I imagine was just a bunch of bills about agriculture stuff. Yeah. And then more insane stuff that some 17-year-old thought of.
Yeah.
Really conservative Kansas. Every poor person has to get a job.
But the crazy thing was that every like race was basically between. This was like the party system there, where it was just like people that took it really seriously, and then the guys that were like, yo, if you elect me, we're gonna merge Boys State and Girls State, and we're gonna get down.
Yeah. Well, it's a perfect microcosm of real politics because the only people involved are nerds and assholes. Like everyone else doesn't, no one else is going to that shit. My last year at camp, and I want to talk about yours, Evan, too, because I think it happened. I think I turned 16 like 2 weeks after my last Boy Scout camp. We're at Camp Rainy Mountain, and it's like this perfect little like nexus of like the end of childhood and the beginning of adulthood, because I was in like the hippie Boy Scout troop. We were the only non-church associated Boy Scout troop, so like we were fucking awesome. So a lot of the like nationalistic religious bullshit that a lot of the scouting of that era especially is associated with, we were spared from all that. Ours was literally like, hey, we're gonna go do a bunch of canoe trips and hike a bunch. So it was very like outdoor sort of based more so than all the other bullshit. But we went to Camp Rainy Mountain up in North Georgia. It's a beautiful camp in the mountains, and I remember I had signed up for the astronomy merit badge, and the guy teaching the class, he incorrectly identified Venus as the North Star. He was like, well, obviously that's Polaris, the North Star, and it was very much in the western sky. I was like, that's fucking Venus, bro. And so I just didn't go. And I remember getting in trouble because I stopped going, and then a bunch of other of like my troop, we all just like fucked off and quit doing it. So I kind of got in trouble for there, and then I got my Eagle Scout, and I was out. I was done. But that was sort of the end of camping for me, was just being like, I'm about to be able to drive. Fuck you, and then just not, and then just like the authority system just kind of fell apart.
I feel like at least you learned things at camp. I don't know what I I don't know if I've picked up any skills.
Yeah,
I think it's probably like more social skills,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like as
that's-
opposed to like being able to start a fire without a match. Like,
Right.
in this
Yeah.
case, you actually, from what I gather, like figure a lot of stuff out, and a lot of like transitional moments in your growing,
Sure.
you know, in
We
your
just
young
lear-
adulthood happen at camp.
We had counselors that would like tell us ghost stories. Like I remember going to like the campsite, and they would tell us like, you know, there was like a little hut in the woods, and they'd tell us that's where like
a bunch of kids were murdered or something.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember once being at the campsite, and we were sleeping outside, and and my Irish counselor told us like an Irish folk tale.
Oh shit! Yeah,
Which is like-
banshees and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it was like everyone was able to sleep after that, but I just sat up all night being like, that is the scariest thing I've ever done in my life.
What was your last year like there?
Well, I was a counselor, and it was miserable because I was always a good camper, and they put me with like the youngest kids. And I don't know, I just feel like sometimes when they put, like at night, they would have to put you with, you know, to watch a group of kids that wasn't always your bunk.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of times they would put me with like the youngest kids that are like shouldn't be in camp,
Oh god,
but
yeah.
they were
homesick
kids,
and piss in the bed.
No, they were
and-
kids of staff members, so they were like 4 or 5.
Oh shit!
And I was
okay.
like, this they need like a professional person.
right,
And it was
yeah.
miserable.
Oh fuck.
I wasn't a good counselor. Their estimation of me was like, oh, he'll be great with kids. He's a nice person.
Sure.
That doesn't mean you're good with kids.
No,
you know?
yeah.
no.
Like I was terrible with kids, and I was a terrible counselor, and I was sort of glad that I didn't go back
Yeah.
after that, because I wanted to go back after that, but I was also like, I don't know.
Kids that age can barely remember the parody lyrics you write.
Exactly. Well, that was the thing. Like I had to do that, but also, you're 16, 17 years old, and you're trying to get kids to take a shower. You don't want to take a shower. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, that needs a professional adult, like child
With-
care.
yeah.
A child care professional, not some guy who's like, get in the fucking shower.
Just do it.
No, just get in the fucking shower. Why don't
Rub a
you-
dub dub,
yeah.
motherfuckers!
Why don't you want to be clean, you asshole?
You look terrible. You smell terrible.
Yeah.
You
Get in the shower.
can't keep the harmony with Martika's Toy Soldiers. I wrote this
Yeah.
parody song.
Yeah.
Boys Club. Boys Club. Boys Club. Boys Club. Boys Club. Boys Club. Talking about Boys Club. Boys Club.
Before we go, I did have I had a news story to read from our humble newspaper, the Disgraceland Picayune, that we get here from time to time. Gulfport, Mississippi. A man has been arrested after he drove his pickup truck into a courthouse in Mississippi. News outlets reported that the Gulfport Police Department said in a news release that 28-year-old Keith Cavalier told officers he intentionally crashed into a Harrison County courthouse early Saturday because it was the best way to let them know that his drug paraphernalia had been stolen.
That's the best name for
Yeah, I
this
was gonna
guy.
say.
Yeah.
Keith
Cavalier.
As we
Cavalier.
know from, Evan's camp experience, the Cavaliers,
Cavaliers.
that bunk sucked.
That one sucks. No one was hurt. Cavalier has been charged with driving under the influence and malicious mischief because of damage to the building.
So he showed up to court like messed up.
No, so
Okay.
it was.
I think it was just an accident, but he tried to claim this later.
Well, no, but the reason was he was trying to let the cops know that his crack pipe or his bong or whatever had been stolen, and the best way he came up with this was to crash into a courthouse on a Saturday night. So no one was hurt, and the court was.
So a real John Q situation.
Did he-
there.
I want to know what the courthouse was. Or they're like, did he have to go up steps? Was he like?
Yeah,
There was
that is a good question.
There were no pictures of the crime scene or at least not in the not in this article that the Picayune has for us. But I just assume he crashed into a wall, and when they arrested him, it was like, I need y'all to know that my costly bong was absconded with. You know?
I like the idea that he just had to, he had to switch gears to just sort of really get up those steps.
I paid $300 for that triple chambered
Yeah.
ice cooled Bong. I demand satisfaction.
He knocked over a Confederate monument.
Mississippi rules. It honestly does.
I mean,
I just imagine him just like mock t-shirt, turtleneck, like Oakley razor blades, driving his truck right through the thing, blasting Copperhead Road on his stereo as he does it.
hell yeah. Oh, man.
What city did this happen in?
Gulfport, Mississippi.
Gulfport. Oh, yeah. That's one of them.
That's down there that's in between old near there Ocean Springs and Biloxi down there. I've been to Gulfport, Mississippi a couple times actually. That's the news. That's all the news that's fit to print.
Yeah.
in Gulfport, Mississippi. Evan, thank you so much for joining us for this episode.
Thanks for having me.
Please plug anything you need to plug. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Evan J. Kessler, EvanJ Kessler, and also Instagram. And I don't know if anyone is in LA on December 1st. I'm on the Townies show at Skip Town Playhouse.
That's Kevin Anderson, former guest of the show, past and future guest, Kevin Anderson's show. Great show, great little venue, actually about a block away from Disgraceland.
Yeah.
So that's a great show. So yeah, if you're in LA, definitely check out Evan there on December 1st. Sam, do you have anything to plug, my friend?
Probably. I don't know. I can't remember shit. It's Thanksgiving next week.
Oh yes.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I want to give a plug to Thanksgiving real fast. Be sure to look that up. No, I don't know. Follow me on Twitter, Sam Harter. I'm doing shows. On December 2nd, I'm doing Golden Hour.
Oh, that would be
nice.
fun. Yeah, our friend, past guest of the show, MK Paulson.
Yeah. And that's where you should check me out.
Hell yeah. Well, yeah, definitely follow Sam, follow Evan. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/thegoodspod, twitter.com/thegoodspod. Every episode ever, youtube.com/thegoodspod. We just put up the clip from Fan Man. If you want to see
nice.
that, I added some slides for that. So I actually kind of work hard on our clips. So check those out. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Buy a shirt. ProWrestlingTees.com/thegoodspod. We just added Pod is War, old school WWE Raw logo, Goods from the Woods shirt up there on heather gray. So check that out. So of course get our classic shirts up there. And I think Black Friday, I think there's a sale. I think you can get those shirts for like 20% off.
Yeah,
and they're only $20. So go get it. Buy a shirt. Pat, what should the folks do when they get to iTunes and Google Play?
Of course, rate, review, and subscribe. Or as that show title is, like and subscribe, which I don't know how you like this show, but whatever. It shows the attitude of gratitude.
And if you don't have the attitude of gratitude, Daddy, fuck you. We'll see you next week. The Goods from the Woods was mixed, edited, and distributed by me, Rivers Langley. You can find the show on Twitter at TheGoodsPod. Our theme song was composed by DJ Smiles. Check him out on Twitter at DJ Smiles.